The mint family is probably a familiar family to you, even if you don't see it much out in the wild because it's not super common or abundant. You probably know it from your kitchen cabinet. These make up most of our herbs, things like oregano, basil, and of course, mint. They have these really fragrant leaves, but they're almost always herbaceous plants and they have opposite leaves and then one other really weird feature: square stems. And so let's explore the mint family just a little bit. A few examples from Washington State. Like I said, there's not tons and tons of these. We'll just familiarize ourselves with a few. Here in central Washington, purple sage is probably one you're likely to run into in the shrub steppe. Not a conspicuous plant, but when it flowers, it really is lovely. And if you brush against it, you will know it. A lot of these plants are very fragrant, sometimes even pungent, like coyote mint that you'll find up in the mountains. Not necessarily the most pleasant smelling, but it's definitely strong. So in the plant kingdom, the mint family is right up here, along with the sunflower family, nightshade family, and others on the eudicot branch. You know you have a plant in the mint family with these characteristics. So a lot of them are herbs, except we will talk about a shrub. Very often that the stems are square. So when you look at them over here, you can kind of tell, but when you roll them in your fingers, you can definitely tell square stems. Opposite leaves and glandular. If you take a close look at this with a magnifying lens, you'll see these little dots, and that's where all that aroma comes from. And the flavor too. Like if you make mint tea, you have to kind of bruise those leaves in order to get the oils out. Now, a lot of times, or always, we classify plants by their flowers. And so when you look at the flowers of the mint family, you'll find that there are 5 petals and they're all fused into a tube. So down here at the base, there's the tube, and then the petals flare out from there individually. They are bilaterally symmetrical, so they have a right and a left side. They're not more like a starfish, more like us. They have a right and a left. You can see that here on this flower, right and left side. In a strange arrangement inside, they have 4 stamens that are fertile, the male parts, and then one sterile one that just sticks out. It's kind of a strange one there. Now, if you have something in the mint family, these are the things to pay attention to figure out what exactly it is. So obviously the growth form, and then most of it has to do with the details of the flowers, and you probably need a good magnifying glass or really good eyesight to catch these. So just the details of the flowers themselves. Usually these flowers range from white to pink or purple, really common in the mint family, but those are the sort of things that you'll need to look for. Well, let's meet a few. So purple sage, really common in the shrub steppe, although not abundant, and you don't want to mix it up with sagebrush. That's a different plant. That's one in the sunflower family. Sagebrush is really abundant, and it does smell similar, but you wouldn't want to eat it at all. Purple sage is the true sage. So salvia is the same genus as culinary sage, for example. So this is a true sage plant. It's got opposite leaves, you can see down here, somewhat squarish stems, and this is a bit unusual in the fact that it is a shrub. It's a fairly inconspicuous shrub. You won't notice it most likely unless you do one of 2 things. Come out in May or June when it's in bloom, and then it's quite a bit more showy, or you brush against it and release those aromatic oils. In that case, you'll know it. Scent fills the air. It's a very strong smelling sage, but it does have beautiful flowers. Again, just here and there in those rocky slopes within the shrub steppe. Our next plant is also sort of a shrub. It's a very small shrub. Some might call it a sub-shrub, and that is coyote mint. And this one grows up in the mountains, again on very rocky slopes. Sometimes it's the only thing growing. I've seen it really abundant in some areas, but usually it's just dotted here or there in a little outcrop within the forest. And so it's got these nice lavender colored flowers, again in a tube, opposite leaves, and extremely pungent. So field mint is in the genus Mentha. It's an herbaceous plant, and it's the same genus as spearmint and peppermint that we grow here in the Yakima Valley so abundantly in some places. It does have that classic square stem and opposite leaves, really fragrant. It's kind of the field mint feels more like a spearmint on steroids. It's really, really strong smelling, but very pleasant. It does have those tubular flowers down here in the leaf axils instead of at the top, like spearmint and peppermint have them. And it grows in usually pretty wet areas, so meadows and stream sides. It spreads by underground rhizomes, just like our other mints. And so this is an herbaceous plant, and you're likely to run into it just here and there, not really very abundant, but a lot of times you'll catch it by the aroma before you actually see it. Then lastly, we have one that I didn't want to pass up just because it's interesting in its importance medicinally. People have used self-heal in multiple continents, multiple cultures for centuries, all noticing it has some sort of medicinal qualities. A pretty unassuming plant. You'll find it on the forest floor, opposite leaves, and mint-like flowers here. And not a very fragrant plant at all, but it does seem to have some medicinal qualities that have been recognized by a lot of cultures. Pretty small plant, usually ankle to shin high, just growing there in the forest floor, and a lot of people have it in their yards as well. So you'll see that one from time to time. Well, that's it for the mint family. I hope that you are able to see some next time you're out and about. Until next time, happy botanizing.